Hello Cowboys Nation, welcome to another video, and without further ado, let's get to another round of news from America's team. Mike McCarthy's bold trade prediction for Trey Lance. The Trey Lance experiment has hit another hiatus for the Dallas Cowboys. Lance got his first run with the team through 3 preseason games, but of course was not positioned to command anything besides a reserve role this season. That roller coaster ride saw the young quarterback make progress, but also a handful of confusing mistakes. Additionally, Dak Prescott's record contract extension essentially ended his hopes of ever commanding the Cowboys' starting job under center. Dallas' trade for him remains a confusing decision, though the whims of Jerry Jones are best served for separate discussions. Pertaining to the quarterback, what does it look like now? Very quickly, the former first-round pick of the San Francisco 49ers became the odd man out before coming to Dallas, where there is no long-term vision for him either. Studying under Prescott certainly benefits his knowledge of the game, but there is little value in that knowledge if he is not applying it on the field. However, Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy still posits belief in Lance. Friday, McCarthy validated his future as a potential starter. Trey has everything you're looking for, and on top of it he's a high-quality young man, McCarthy said on Dallas radio station 105.3 The Fan. He needs reps and he's in an excellent quarterback room with Dak and Cooper. He's going to start in this league someday. I truly believe that. That bold prediction banks a lot on opportunity, which Lance will likely not get in Dallas. When Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was sidelined with a concussion, some thought the AFC East franchise could take their own stab at the Lance experiment. As McCarthy demonstrated, some quarterbacks take longer to blossom and need that time and patience to develop. Being such a high draft pick, Lance was never afforded such a luxury. Players like Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith have all revitalized their careers in new situations after learning within a system or under a highly touted quarterback. Lance has worked with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for some time now. It is not unrealistic to assume that once he gets his shot, he could prove McCarthy right. Cowboys should consider trade for All-Pro Wr. not named Davante Adams. With the NFL trade deadline just a few weeks away, much of the talk surrounding the Dallas Cowboys has been directed at the defensive side of the football. And that makes plenty of sense, given the recent injuries to Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Marshawn Kneyland, the last 2 of whom are sitting on injured reserve. But America's team still has a few holes to fill on offense as well, the wide receiver position being one of them. With Brandon Cooks also on injured reserve, Jalen Tolbert stepped up in the Cowboys' Week 5 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, notching a career-best 87 yards on 7 catches, the last of which was the game-winning touchdown. But can Dallas truly count on Tolbert to put up numbers like that each and every week? Probably not. To his credit, Dak Prescott has essentially done the best he can do with the receiving core he's got and ranks second in the NFL through 5 weeks with 1,424 passing yards, trailing only Geno Smith, 1,466, of the Seattle Seahawks. CeeDee Lamb continues to be stellar, ranking 9th among all wideouts with 378 yards, and tight end Jake Ferguson is typically a reliable target as well. Tolbert and Cavani Turpin have played admirably enough, but again, there's a consistency issue there, and neither can be considered a genuine wide receiver too. And even when Cooks was on the field, he was a bit disappointing, racking up just 91 yards on 9 catches in 4 games. Naturally, when the Davante Adams trade rumors began, Dallas was listed as a possible destination for the disgruntled Las Vegas superstar. However, Jerry Jones still has another option he can pursue. And a much cheaper one at that, one that could also be considered a straight-up rental for the remainder of the season, Deandre Hopkins. Cowboys should call the Titans about Deandre Hopkins' trade. Let's face it. The Tennessee Titans aren't going anywhere this season. At 1-3, they're already well behind the Houston Texans in the AFC South, and they've shown no signs that they're going to get any better. Will Levis has been an absolute disaster, and it'd be a shock if the Titans reached the 6 wins they did a season ago. Given the struggles Levis has had, it's not difficult to understand why Hopkins only has 10 catches for 121 yards thus far. Perhaps that's why his name hasn't come as often as others in trade rumors. But make no mistake about it, he'd thrive in Dallas. Sure, Hopkins is 32 years old and will never be the player he was with the Texans, with whom he made 5 Pro Bowls and 3 first-team All-Pro squads. But it's not as if the 12th-year veteran is washed by any stretch, as evidenced by the fact that he recorded 75 receptions for 1,057 yards and 7 touchdowns last season. Realistically, Adams was never going to have a star on the side of his helmet, as Jones wouldn't want to take on a guy whose cap hit is $44.1 million in each of the next 2 seasons. With Hopkins, however, anything beyond this season doesn't even matter, as he's on an expiring contract and will enter free agency this upcoming offseason. His cap hit this season was a touch over $18.3 million, but it's not as if the Cowboys would be taking on that entire amount. Plus, they've got money to spend with over $23.6 million in cap space. Yes, Dallas may need to use some of that money to acquire some defensive help. But we all know how easy it is nowadays for teams to restructure contracts. This is a deal that the Cowboys can make. And they likely wouldn't have to give up all that much, perhaps a late-round pick and some additional compensation. But it's undoubtedly doable. And after catching passes from Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis the last 2 years, Hopkins would likely be ecstatic about an upgrade at QB. Simply put, Prescott needs a true wide receiver 2 to play opposite Lamb, and Hopkins fits that bill to a T at this point in his career. All that's left is for Jones to pick up the phone. But all Cowboys fans know how difficult that can be for him at times.